So let's now move to the next step or next activity of the test process, which is test analysis. So in the test analysis, actually, okay, before we start what the test analysis actually is define the test conditions. So in the test analysis, we just identify the testable features. Test analysis, actually, we just identify the testable features. So what we mean by the testable features? Testable features, actually, it's any features, any components of the system can be verified. Any things, for example, any modules. For example, here I have in your system, you have many modules. So each module can be a testable features. Another example, you have some functionalities in your system. Okay, add item, delete item, few items or few products. So each of these, each function, it can be testable features. So here also another example, if you want to test the GUI, so you have the text box, you have the image, you have the buttons. So each of them, it's also can be testable item. So we have to test each one. We have to test each testable feature of the system. So this one, each testable features, it's considered or it's called a test condition. Test condition. So the test condition, actually, it's any item, any event, any things in your system could be verified. So very important step is to list all the test conditions. Very important step is to test all the test conditions, because we will use it. All the next steps, it's based on the test conditions. So the important one here, it's how to derive your test conditions. So the question, from where I can define the test condition. You can define the test condition from the documentations, from SR documentation, for example, SR file or SDD, which is the design also. So from these two files or any other file or even from the code, you can define the test conditions, which this is you call a test base. Test basis actually is any documents or any information, any documents, any resource that can be used as or can use for define the test conditions. So here an example of the test conditions. We have the first one, for example, as I mentioned, if you want to, this is a condition. You see, this is the condition. Now, verifying login GUI. You have login modules, and this is, you want to verify the login GUI. That means okay, the text box is working well. The button working well, uploading photo working well. So want to verify this. This is now we call it as verify, or we call it as the test conditions. Another example of the test condition, for example, checking the username and password entry. So maybe you have many possibilities for checking that. For example, your username, it's the user, it's empty. The username and the password is empty. The username is valid and the password is invalid. And the username, for example, it's not acceptable. For example, they do not meet the criteria of the username. So this is checking user and password entry. So this is the test conditions. So the test condition, we can say it's just something like scenario. I want to check the username and the password entry. I want to check the password complexity, which is the third one. Yeah, how to check, for example, the complexity. So from the requirement, you go back through the requirement, and then you see how you want to check the what's the requirement for the password complexity. So there is some requirement. So this requirement, since there is some requirement, so this is its test condition. So there is these things should be verified. So since that one should be verified, so this is test conditions, because later we can use this test condition to define another thing, which is the test cases in the next phase. So another things, for example, one requirement is the age of the student should be more than 50 years old, not more than 50 years old. Should not be more than more than 50 years old. So this is a requirement. So this requirement actually should be verified, right? So since it should be verified, so this is also its conditions. So this is test condition. So this is test condition. So we have to verify that by design some test cases. So now in this step, in the analysis step, we just define the test conditions. So anything in your requirements mention that these things we should verify it. So this is, we can consider it as a test condition and write it, list it there in the test condition list. So now we have a list of test condition. So we come to the next step, which is the design. So we need to design the test cases. So now for each test condition, we have to design the test cases. So design the test cases here. We find all the possibilities of these test conditions. So the process here, or let's say in the designing or in the analysis, we answer the question what to test. Okay, I want to test the complexity of the password. So here we have to answer the question is how to test that. How you will test the complexity of the username. So I will test it by keying, for example, or checking the length of the password. I will check it by check the type of the characters. Is it upper or lower letters? Based on the requirement. So here, how to test it? How to test the user or the GUI, for example? How to test? You know that from the previous stage, we have to test the GUI. So here, how I test the GUI. So for example, I will check the button, is it working well? I will check the uploading photo. If I click upload photo, and then I will upload the photo, it will work well or not. So you have to mention how to test these testable features. So here we have to derive the test cases from the test conditions. We have a test condition now from the previous step. We have from that step. So here in this step, we have to define the test cases based on the test conditions. So here, the activities under this step is designing and prioritize the test cases and the set of test cases. Okay, we have either test cases or a set of test cases. Also identify the test data. So the test data, which is the possibilities. So you can say in this stage, you just say, I will check the password with valid and invalid password. I will check login with valid and invalid password. For example, just designing. So also designing the environment. For example, I want to verify this GUI in different platform or in different browsers. So here we just do define the environment. So here an example, just I will say, okay, the test cases, what the test cases, before we go for this is the definition of the test cases. Test cases is refer to the sequence of the action required to verify specific features. We have now the testable features. I want to test it. What the action is required to test that features. as I mentioned, okay, the username, I will check it by key in valid and then invalid password or username. So this is the test cases. I will write, for example, the first one, the first test cases, key in or verify with valid password. The second one, verify with invalid password. So this test cases, and this is the second one is another test cases. So let's see now an example of test cases and how we can define the test cases. So let's see this window, which is login page. So as you see here, we have the email, we have the password, we have also some other components like remember me, forget password. So all of these components, it's in the login page, and all of these components need to be verified. So we can consider all of them as testable features. So the email, only the text box as the email where you key in the email, can be as a testable features. So you need to verify that, verify its functionalities, verify the characters that need to key in there. So each of these components can be verified. So here there is some tips here how to write how to write the test cases. So first of all, you have each of these components, which is the email, the password, another components. All of them can be considered as testable features, and based on the requirement, you can write the test case for them. So this is number one. Number two, also, when you write the test cases, you should also consider the two sides, which is positive and negative. What's means that, okay, key in valid password, also invalid password. So this is positive and negative. Also, we have to think about the function and non-functions. Function and non-function. For example, okay, the function of this is just to log in with valid password and username. Also, it's also non-invalid password. So this is the function of this, but also we have to consider another things like, for example, as we will see in this example, the timeout. For example, okay, key in the username and the password, and then log in or click log in, but it's take long time. So this is also should be considered, and other things, for example, the usability and other testable feature of the system. So here, as we say, we have this example. We want to verify, or we want to write the test cases. So as we mentioned previously, we have first to define the test cases. So the test cases from the previous example, we say we can verify the username and the password entry. We can verify the GUI. We can verify the usability. So this is the test condition. So first we have to list the test conditions. What do we want to verify? So this is also based on your requirement. Then after that, for each of these test condition, we will write the function or the test cases. The test cases actually. So first we have to define the test condition. So here we have test condition. We can, as mentioned in the previous example, we say checking the username and the password entry. So for this test condition, we can define many test cases. For example, here, verify if the user will be able to log in with valid username and valid password. So this is the positive test cases. Also under this test condition, also verify if the user cannot log in with valid username and invalid password. So this is the negative one for the negative one. So also under that test condition, also verify the login page for both when the field is blank. For example, we are now still in the first one, which is a test condition. We want to verify if IKN is blank. I leave the username and the password is empty, and I just click login. So this is all is under the test or the username and password entry. Some example. So here is some example of the first test condition. So for example, for the GUI, for some example, okay, also verify the remember me. Okay. Also verify if the password field is either feasible or not feasible. So something is related to the GUI, not the functional. Also verify the usability, for example, the timeout. So this is just an example. This is just an example of the test cases. So this one should be, so these test cases should be written in the proper way based on the test condition, based on the requirement. So there in your requirement, you will get, for example, for the complexity, for example, for the password complexity, only for the password complexity. For example, you have 8 requirements. For example, 8 requirements. For example, the password should not be less than 8 characters. The password should not be, should include, for example, special characters like underscore, like heaven, like, so should include. So the password should not include repeated letters. So this is the third one. So if you have, for example, 10 test cases or 10 requirement for only the password complexity, so at least you will have 20 test cases for these 10 requirements. So we should check each one of these requirement in the positive and negative case. So here the test cases script, as we mentioned, if we add some more information, this is the test cases only. These are the test cases. We have the test condition, we have the test cases itself. So now when we design or when we add more information about the test cases, we will create something you call it the test case script. So the test case script also include the test cases, the test case ID, also preconditions. We include the step, which is the important things, how to run these test cases, Also, we have to include also the expected result. And then the post conditions. So this is some information about the test cases and the test case script. And the test case script actually is very important because you can use it as for tracking the defect later. Or when you fix the defects, you can track using this test script. So here an example of the test script. So the same in our example, or in our example, which is login. In login, we can also add another information for like a step, for example, the need to valid account. Or for example, the first test cases verify the login with valid username and password. This is the first one. Verify the login with valid username and password. So here, as a precondition, we should have valid account. Then the step, we should enter the username, enter the password, and then click button. We have also, as a test data, we have to valid username and valid password. Data, when we have to key in with different, for example, invalid, so our data will be invalid data. So here, as expected result should successfully log in. And as a post condition, they display the student dashboard. So here, example of the test script. So now we have the test condition. After that, from the test condition, we liberate the test cases. And in the test cases, also we can elaborate it in more details by adding the step and the test data, and then we'll have the test script. So here is the example of the test script.